Yeah, as I've gotten older and more experience in the business, I say no more and more. It's not as if I'm saying no to a customer I'm going to work with you, but it's just setting boundaries. Like on Thanksgiving or Christmas, I'm not going to call a customer back. I'm just not going to do it. Maybe I'll shoot them a text and say, "Hey, it's Christmas. I'm with my family. Let's talk tomorrow." And if someone doesn't respect that or understand it, that's probably not a customer I want to work with, anyways.
Hey, everyone out there. Welcome to another exciting episode of Lending Leadership with the Mortgage Pros. Robert Fillyaw with HMA Mortgage here. Got Dave Holland and Tom Mills joining me as always. Hey, fellas, how are y'all?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
What's
Good,
going on?
man. Living the dream, as they say, right? Fun and exciting things happening, moving and shaking. It's funny. We're going to be talking about time management, and we had a hell of a time managing to get this on the schedule, right?
Lack
It'll
of
be
time
easy, they
management
said.
from us, for sure.
One time a week, they said.
Yeah, it took a bit to get us all here, and even now we're behind the gun on hitting the start on the record. So timely topic for us today, no doubt. So excited to talk about this with you guys. Let's just kick it off. One thing is I think about time management. I think back to my life and over the course of my career. And really the times that I did not have time management nailed down and really the chaos that ensued, not just in my business, but in my family life. I know we all know, a lot of stories out there. We've heard the horror stories. We have personal examples. I'm wondering if maybe, it's not a bad idea just to start with that as a little bit of base and then talk through some of, how we overcome that. What are some of the foundational pieces we've put in place in our business and our careers to help manage the time, and then what the outcome's been as a result. I think that might be a good roadmap for us.
Yeah, let's go.
Of course, we'll get off topic a little bit, right?
I mean, time management sounds boring, on paper, but it's kind of a dry subject, but it's an important subject in life or work to be successful. So it's I don't want to say it's a cornerstone of everything, but it's definitely one of the cornerstones.
It really is, Dave, and I think you're right. It's boring. Like when I think about time management, I kind of want to take a nap, right? But having said that, like if you nail this, life gets infinitely better. Your business gets better. Your personal life gets better. Like it just all improves. So while it's a little bit of minutia, it is really, really important in every aspect of everything that we do.
No doubt.
I think your schedule is kind of your lifeline. And, when you think about time management, we're really talking about our schedule. And there's only so many hours in the day. And during that time, we have to sleep, eat, and, we've got really, 16 hours to work with. So how do we get the most of that? And then capacity. Everybody's got, larger amount of capacity than some people. So I think it kind of comes down to some self-awareness, just whatever works for someone's schedule or someone's way of doing time management may not necessarily be the strategy that's like effective for someone else.
Because when you have a schedule and you follow the schedule, you are more focused. You don't get into, with being a loan officer, the comfort food, right? Creative avoidance, doing stuff that's easy to do and not doing the hard stuff that's effective. So someone who works a 6-hour day very hard and very focused is usually better than someone who's working a 10-hour day when they're jumping from one fire to the next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, Dave, because I was just thinking that, it's really about making the decision. Like I look at time management and it's really about making the decision to control your day versus letting your day control you.
Absolutely.
And that comes to some hard stops. That comes to, setting boundaries. That comes with time blocking. We're going to get into all of these things. It also comes with being able to say no, right? Tom touched on capacity. One of my favorite sayings, capacity controls everything we do. We're in a capacity-based business. There's only so much time in the day. So like if you don't set these boundaries, your clients, your referral partners, your teammates, they'll take as much as you let them. And if you don't have boundaries set, they're going to take it. I look back on my career before, and I'm not a master by any means. I'm much better now than I ever was. But before, I had good time management habits and would set the boundaries. And man, I was a workaholic, and it was out of necessity because I didn't know any better and I didn't set my time, and I would do those creative avoidance things, right? I was that guy that worked 6 days a week from 9 in the morning until 6 in the evening. I'd spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with the family. They'd go to sleep and I'm back working until 1 o'clock in the morning. That was 6 days a week. Like, how
and that's easy to do in our business, right? There's always an email or a cost sheet or a phone call. It never ends. And as you ramp up your business, and if you're a big producer, you can work yourself to the bone. I mean, I did it as well too. And my time management was good. One of my bigger issues was I just didn't have enough time and I had too much to do.
Well, it's interesting you say was, because I mean, I have it figured out sometimes, and then it all kind of falls apart, and I don't have it figured out. And you got to kind of get back and regroup, and that happens a lot lately. When I have a lot of consistency in my life and a lot of routine makes time management way easier. And if you're going to bed at the same place, waking up at the same time, going to bed relatively the same time, that all becomes easy. When you're going traveling, doing different things, have different family events, have different work events, things get really, really thrown off. So, then it's like I have to really question, what is it I'm trying to manage in my time? Am I managing the right things? And I think, how you answer those guys, I think, is looking at what are the 3 to 5 most important things you have going on right now? Life, personal, family, business. And look at your calendar, and does that tell you that? How evident are those 3 to 5 things within your calendar? Because if you're focused on those, and that's where I've always had to do. I can only do so much. Try to get help in the areas I couldn't, but what is it I should be focused on? And that's how I get through feeling not like a failure, because there's a lot of things I didn't do. I feel like I've accomplished because those 3 to 5 priorities, they're existent, and they're very much a part of my calendar and schedule.
Tom, I love that. It's a great point. And it's a different angle than I've really ever heard on the subject, in terms of, it makes sense, right? It's kind of one of those duh moments. You prioritize based on what's most important to you, and where you put your time is always where your priorities lie, right? So if you look at, if you really prioritize your activities, and then time manage to make sure that those are your sacred cows, so to speak, right?
Yep.
My son plays football. I'm going to be at his game.
It's a non-negotiable for you.
It's a non-negotiable, right? Regardless of what's going on. So if you do that and then manage around that, it kind of falls into place, maybe even a little more easy than
where it feels okay to say no. It's where you have to be okay saying no, and it's always been kind of what directs me. I think, I think everybody loses focus on the just the task and zero grace to themselves. And, as we go into different coaching programs, a lot of common themes, you should do this between this time to this time. That might not work today. Your son may have a game at that time, that's a non-negotiable. That doesn't mean that if that was your most important activity of the day, that because you normally do it at this time, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and I think that's where people get whacked with time management. I can't look at it and say with anything. I can't say I do this at 2 o'clock every day, or I do this because I don't know where I'm going to be. I just have to say, I have to do this each day or each week, and it takes this much time. And sometimes tomorrow, I'm figuring out tomorrow how I'm shifting that time in there because something just came up and threw a curveball. And you're saying, I'm saying no to something maybe sometimes they're already committed to.
I love that. So we talk about this a lot. So often we have this all or nothing mindset, right? And it's, I'm supposed to do, I've got this on my calendar and I didn't get it, so I'm not going to do it at all. It's well, no. If it's in your priority list, move it, find another day. Like, it still has to get done. And some of that stuff you have flexibility, some of it doesn't. You don't, right? So you got to determine
important,
that.
it's like, say it's like a doctor's appointment, right? But if it's important and you block it out, make it your number one priority to do it. And if you have an hour to make calls or meet people, make sure you do it. And like the football game or a doctor's appointment, it's a non-negotiable. You are not going to miss it.
Yeah. We said routine, like when we all have routine, it's a lot easier. Like what are some of the routines you got, whether it's daily, weekly, what are some of the routines you guys do to kind of keep that in check?
I mean, when I'm focused and 100% on, right, I'm at home, I'm not traveling, I'm getting up at 5 or 5:30, get up, read for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then go work out. And if I get those two things done, if I read for half an hour, get up early, exercise, the rest of the day just lines up. And I feel, regardless of what happened during that day, I accomplished something. And I usually accomplish it before 7:30 a.m. And then the rest of the day just kind of falls in place. I know that's like hokey, wake up early, exercise.
No, it's not. It's not hokey at all.
It's true. When I'm focused like that, I'm on all day, all week.
It's everybody, guys, as you're out there thinking about this and you're actually looking at how you're going to start managing your day. Everyone's going to have a different process and a different way to go about it. Me, like, I look at my calendar. I try to go to bed around the same time every night. I'm a little bit of a night owl, right? So like 11-ish, I'm trying to go to bed. I look at my calendar. It's one of the last things I do every night, and look at the next day and mentally prepare for what I have. Make sure there's, no conflicts. If there's anything I need to address early in the morning to move. And then the next morning, I wake up, take my kids to school. When I get in the office, I have about 15 to 20 minutes before we have our daily call that I literally just brain dump on things I want to accomplish that day. Calls that I need to make, people I need to touch base with outside of the calendar, right? Because I'm really, really passionate about space blocking my calendar and having fixed activities. But I brain dump and make my to-do list, and then that's my, outside of what's already on the calendar, that's my priority list. And then as what sidetracks us is the incoming stuff, right? That text message, that phone call, that fire on a file.
We have fires on files. That happens here.
Sometimes, not often, but sometimes. Everyone has it sometimes, right? So, but all that stuff is noise, honestly. Like, it's distraction. So it's okay. Not everything needs immediate attention. And I think we're in a world where everything is right now. Everything's instant. It's okay. Like, you can prioritize your response. Not everything
creative
has to
avoidance
be right now.
too. That's creative avoidance. Like, oh, there's a fire here. I got to talk to this LO or underwriter. You're like, that can wait. If you're time block, if you're at the doctor's, right, you're not going to step out of the room when the doctors examine you. Say, I got to take this fire. You're going to be focused on it, right? It's creative avoidance. And Robert, I like your point. When I'm most on, and I'm not usually this on, I spend an hour on Sunday, plan out my week, my top 10 or 15 goals. Before I go to bed, I write down my wins for the day. Now, I don't do that very often, and I really plan my day and have the top couple goals for tomorrow.
I like the wins
when I'm really on, but I'm usually not that on. But I'm going to recommit to it.
I like it. Yeah, it's funny. We're talking about not everything needs immediate attention. How many times have we seen this? I had it happen yesterday, right? We were buried yesterday with calls and just different things, and there was a fire on a file that an originator with us, a mild fire, right? They were kind of losing their mind and had sent an email and, escalating. And by the time I got to it, it was 50 minutes later, right? Because we're on calls. By the time I got to it, it had already been handled, taken care of, wasn't even an issue. If they would have just they stopped something they were in the middle of to jump in on that. If they would have just paused for a moment.
Let the process work.
Right? It's interesting.
Well, it's interesting, Robert. You said you used to like to, we mentioned how everybody's a little bit different. You said you like to do that in the morning. I can't really sleep good at night if I don't get that done. Like, my brain dumping and then looking ahead. You look at the calendar and you brain dump. I have to brain dump. I have to kind of do that to-do list. And then, kind of before I get started, I kind of review that, jot a couple things down, and kind of see how I work those tasks I have around the priorities that are in the schedule.
I mean, again, this sounds a little hokey, but this is what successful people do. This is how you are more focused, you manage your time better. It's how you become successful.
You know, I say this about this. I say this about the DSP that we do. I say this on you know, a few other things. People that I have worked with who have implemented aspects of this and taken some of the steps we're talking about, I've never seen it not work and yield positive results. So, you know, it's a little bit of a commitment, right? Like, let's be honest, this is not flipping a light. Nothing in our business is flipping a light switch.
Not going to have there's no overnight success stories like that. It's
and you're going to poop the bed on it, right?
Sure.
You're going to have days that just absolutely go sideways, and you're going to beat yourself up and you're going to feel horrible. That happens, guys. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself a little bit of, you know, encouragement. And the beautiful thing about time management is tomorrow's a new day, and you have a clean slate, and you get to try it all over again.
We're all creatures of habits, you know. So it's like, really, you know, if you want to get anything better than anything, you just have to look at like what habits I think makes you better, and then not, you know, don't try to do all those habits at once. Like, you know,
You got to start small.
you know, the whole theory of, if you can't get up, you know, you want to start getting up at 5 a.m, you know, start getting up 15 minutes early, and all of a sudden, you know, earlier every day or every couple of days, and it becomes much easier. I think, you know, you got to take kind of tiny chunks at things, you know, instead of, a lot of time people look at time management and they think, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna complete my entire schedule, you know, and then you come in and then you feel complete out of disorder because you can't catch up to anybody and anything that's coming at you your way that day. Little things like I found, like little habits I try to do. You guys see I schedule like 45-minute calls so I can have and try to stick to that, you know, so that I got 15 minutes to kind of have a little follow up like in between. Like if I can get that done, like that 15 minutes of just action time before that next, you know, thing I have to jump into is like a habit that really helps me. And then Dave, you mentioned morning habits, you know, everybody should have, I think, some way of their day starting, mental preparation, Robert, time with your, you know, kids on the job, whatever your like mental like preparation is. I think reading, working out, family time, breakfast with kids, whatever that is, I think, you know, that tends to lead to that. How you said, I'm a better person. I'm more dialed in that day. I think those habits are really important. Just kind of how you start the day.
You know, one of the big things, hot topics when we talk about time management is time blocking or space blocking, right? And this is something I've seen a lot of people try and a lot of people fail, right? Because it's what you just said, Tom. They overdo it. You over engineer it. So for anybody out there who's, you know, maybe tried this in the past and hasn't had great success with it, or maybe is thinking about trying it, I'm going to tell you what worked for me as I started down this path, because I'm a big time blocker now. Start really small. Pick one thing. You know, we talk about that list of priorities. Pick something that's in your top 2 or 3 priorities that's a routine activity and block that time. Just start with one, right? 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. Block that time and start executing on that, right? And that commitment, your commitment needs to be the same level as if you were picking your kids up from school.
100%. Right? It's got to be 100% committed.
Got to be 100% committed. You're not, if you're supposed to be somewhere to get your kids, you're going to make sure you're there, right? Most parents that I know. So start there, start small, and then add, as you get that mastered, add something else. And the other mistake that people make is they try to space block their whole day. You should only
can't do that. You need some open time, some study hall.
Yeah, you got to have 2 or 3 blocks on your day that are space blocked, and everything else should be relatively open to give you some flexibility, because you're going to have appointments come up. You're going to have this come up. You're going to have that come up. So if you're out there and you're trying to space block, those are some best practice tips that I'll give you that worked well for me, and they've worked well for other people in the past.
Yeah. I was talking with some recently in some of the coaching calls, you know, with some of our LOs, talking about, you know, time blocking and, you know, where to, you know, all the things you have to do with customers. Right? You think about your actions and like prospecting, but then, you know, they have interaction with customers. So you have loan consultations and, you know, applications and, you know, locking loans and things like that. I think that's important, is like, sometimes we think like we just have to hurry up and get things done right away for the customer. But, as an originator, you have a job you need to do there. You should take an emphasis on to that. And you should really have time block with that and then schedule that time with the customer, where instead of getting their loan app and calling them right away saying, hey, I have, between this time and this time, or this time and this time, to schedule your loan consult. When would work best for you? And that's reasonable, because it's not like, they don't pick up the phone and call their doctor and expect that, right then they're going through everything. You kind of schedule that stuff out. And I think that way you're more prepared for it. You feel more in order, so have those kind of slots too, not just slots of time, that kind of work ideal for your prospecting, but that service time and that, time with your customers, you can control. LOs are more in control of that than they believe that they are.
It's setting proper expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If John Tice customer calls me at 9:03 a.m. to set up a call, or they need a cost sheet, I don't think we obviously want to have rapid service, but if you shoot that person a text or an email, say, hey, here are the times I have open today. Does that work for your schedule? It doesn't have to be immediate. And that's back to the conversation of immediate gratification.
But not
right. Exactly. This is the tangent, right? Like, everyone wants instant. So, and speed to lead does rule our business. No one will ever convince me otherwise. So there has to be a touch. There has to be some level of response. I got your call in a meeting. I'll be back with you at X time. Hey, tied up right now. Really looking forward to talking to you, because so many people in our profession out there, and not just our profession, all professions, never return calls. Like, people are calling you trying to give you money, and they don't return calls. We had a tree fall in the yard due to a hurricane. I called 5 tree companies to get bids to get it removed. One company called me back.
They get your bid.
I get it.
They get the deal.
They got the deal. I get it. They're busy, right? I understand. Just hit me back and say, hey, we're buried right now. It's going to take me 2 days to get back to you.
Well, how much more money would they have made if they just had somebody answer those calls those days when a hurricane ripped through and trees are all over the place, and they could have scheduled people out days later? They just missed the call. There's
capacity
thousands and thousands of dollars lost over missing that call.
So there's a great takeaway, originators. If you're out there, and we've all had that happen, right? You're in a meeting, you're doing something, and you get that lead that calls that you can't answer. An hour or 2 hours later, you're checking your voicemail and you call them back and they've called Quicken, right? So maybe set up an answering service, scale a team member, something, so there's some touch and acknowledgement, and they know you're coming back to them.
Quicken does not have voicemail for incoming clients. It's the phone is always answered live,
always answered
24/7, 365.
Yep. Interesting. A little bit of a tangent there, but all good. And it all goes hand in hand ultimately with time management, right? I think the other side of this too, guys, we touched on it a little bit, but let's dig into it a little deeper, is the boundaries and being okay with saying no, right? Like, how many times have you guys asked to do something or be involved with something, or, maybe even it's a day where it's like, hey, this person wants you to call them right now. And maybe it's not just saying no, but maybe it's saying, well, I can't do right now, but I'm going to do this. Like, you have to be okay with saying no and with setting your boundaries. This business, our customers and our referral sources, they will take as much time as you allow them to.
Yeah. As I've gotten older and more experience in the business, I say no more and more. It's not as if I'm saying no to a customer I want to work with you, but it's just setting boundaries. Like on Thanksgiving or Christmas, I'm not going to call a customer back. I'm just not going to do it. Maybe I'll shoot them a text and say, hey, it's Christmas. I'm with my family. Let's talk tomorrow. And if someone doesn't respect that or understand it, that's probably not a customer I want to work with anyways. So saying no and respecting your own boundaries, it's important.
It's
same
huge.
Like I lost a realtor one time. This person called me at 11:15 on a Sunday night, and they were really upset I didn't get back to them at that moment. And they said, why didn't you get back to me? I said, I was physically sleeping. And they said, well, I need my loan officer on call till midnight every single night. I'm like, then I'm not your loan officer anymore. And that was the last transaction we did. I mean, that is reasonable that I'm not going to be on call.
Totally reasonable. Midnight. Hey, and totally empowering for
Yeah.
you to set that boundary, right?
Yes.
Like totally empowering.
Yeah. I work hard, right? But
Yeah.
I need to sleep. I go to bed at 9:30, 10 every night. I'm not going to take your calls till midnight. Unreasonable.
And you know what? Here's what I'll tell you. The agents out there that need that loan officer to be on call until midnight or whatever it may be, that's because their time management sucks, right?
No question.
And if you don't set the boundary, it's going to bleed into your life. Like, I don't
No
need your
question.
crazy. Keep that over there.
Nothing's going to get done at 11:15 anyways.
Yeah, right. Especially, it's crazy.
So instead of no, we need to start talking about your time management.
I think we all have those stories though, right? Where we set boundaries. Like, I know we've had clients call, on a weekend, and because their bank's closed, I need a pre-approval right now. And they're going to just call their bank on Monday. I'm not interested in that. Like, that we're not going to engage.
You want to get paid for your work is what you're saying, Robert?
I mean, getting paid's nice,
Yeah.
beats a poke in the eye. But my family time's too important. And are there some deals we've probably lost because of that? Probably. That's okay.
That's okay.
That's a whole different topic that we could go off on. Is
It's
not
okay,
having
and
a
it gets
scarcity
empowering.
mindset,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, as we talk about some wrap up on time management, we've kicked out some best practices. We've talked a little bit, about times when we didn't, making sure that we have grace. We talked a little bit about, when we have done it, and just we use the term on. But let's talk about like some real world examples that we see that maybe we have to share of when we have time managed and the positive results we've seen from it. Are there any stories like that we have just off? I'm putting us on the spot here, but that we can think of off the top of our heads to share.
Time management with positive results.
Yeah, a positive outcome because of your time management.
I mean, I look at loan officers here who I know throughout the country that are dialed in on time management, that do all the things that we talk about. I don't have a specific example, but those are generally the most successful loan officers, as opposed to the ones that run from one fire, react all day.
I agree.
You can't scale your business if you're reacting all day to fires. There's just no way to scale it and do the marketing and outbound calls that you need to do. So that was a general answer. Did I answer your question there, Robert?
Kind of. I've got one I'm going to share. And guys, it's important to know that time management ebbs and flows, right? Like, there's going to be periods in your career and work-life balance where it's dialed on, and then there's going to be periods where it's not, and you're scrambling to adjust, and that's part of this, right? That's okay. I remember as we were going the branch, I had I had built my team and gotten to the point where literally I was working 15, 20 hours a week. Like, I had all the time in the world. It was pretty awesome. Started going the branch, and it completely shifted to where it's now midnight, 1:00 in the morning. I'm still answering emails and doing stuff, right? Because we had just grown and so much support. So I brought in a sales manager, shout out to Jolie Wilding, and started moving that time management back in place. And as a result, as we rounded the corner in December of 2021, I believe it was, I was able to take 2.5 weeks off and go to Paris with my family and completely and totally unplug. I took one phone call the entire time I was there.
You go.
So I had time management dialed in and had the steps in place also to be able to do that. And I look back on that trip, and it was one of the most amazing experiences that we've shared as a family. And if I had not done that, if I hadn't recognized that my time management had gotten off, put the pieces in place, and then got it back realigned, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I would have been working that time, and it would have been a different experience for me and my family.
Yeah, that's a great story.
I think I could probably think really hard about an aha moment at some point, but I think what I see with it is I don't necessarily always see an aha moment. I just see a constant build of momentum as you move forward, like as you manage your time right day by day, week by week, like doing the things that you're committed to do to achieve your goals. It's not like, it's by no means an accident that you start to kind of move towards that. And in the same sense, when you fall off of it, it's not a mistake that you started to fall off track of that momentum, So I think that's what I kind of feel with it is, the tiny wins and how they kind of compound to the big ones, I think is really the impact of it for me.
I like that. I think that's the tiny wins equal huge wins. I think that's a great takeaway. Absolutely. Dave, I want to acknowledge that you mentioned something about as you get older earlier, and I didn't take the jab. I held back, so I want to put it out there. And
just for our listeners and our audience, me and Robert, I think we're 2.5 years apart, and
much
you
older
would
than
think,
I am.
I was 20 years older than Robert.
Much older.
I thought we agreed we weren't doing that anymore, but you couldn't resist because you're Robert.
No, I did. No. I did resist, and I'm acknowledging that I resisted. We're supposed to be on you today, Tom, but we didn't.
I know, and I was prepared for it. I came guns blazing. You guys don't even know. Both hands on each side, ready.
Let's go. On the button. Hey, great subject, guys. Good topics. Hopefully everyone out there found a takeaway, something you can implement in your business. A subject that's beaten up a little bit, but definitely something that's vitally important to what we do. Thanks so much for tuning in to Lending Leadership with the Mortgage Pros. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you never miss any of our future episodes. Robert Fillyaw, Dave Holland, Tom Mills, signing off. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.